this is for the one who ain't never had a love, yeah. This one's for the girl who don't feel like she's enough, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one's for the cool kid playing on the school team, crying to himself cause he never had the prom queen. Head full of wands, but they said it's just a pipe dream, yeah. This one's for the kids like me, they never had one day. The ladies always turn their cheek, but they ain't let the fat ones sing. This one's for the kids like me, kept working when they had nothing. When people try to take their dreams, they stuck it to them, please don't change.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How's everybody doing out there on this Wednesday? Not Wednesday, it's Sunday, damn it. I'm off. I always think it's Wednesday.
You're used to it.
I'm so used to it. Sunday, February 16th, 2025. You're getting some bonus baseball out of us. David, you're here. Hello. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing pretty well. There is a storm going on right now where I live. So if all of a sudden I'm gone, it's because my power went out.
I mean, it's not necessarily a great loss. So I'm
Yeah,
not
it's fair.
that concerned about it.
Very fair.
But overall, yeah, we have a storm going on here too over in Po Town. So I'm hoping that the internet holds up. I'm thinking it will. So here's to praying, right? So we're going to jump in pretty quickly. We appreciate everyone that's watching wherever you're watching. YouTube, X, Rumble, Facebook, Kick. Wherever you are, do your due diligence. Like, share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're listening via podcast later, give us a 5-star review, leave a comment. All that stuff really helps. Last week, Dave, you weren't here, or last Wednesday. You weren't here, but we had Scoop on, Brandon Scoopy Robinson, NBA insider, co-founder of Scoopy Radio. And we talked basketball, but a whole bunch of other things. We got to learn a lot more about Scoop and who he is, cultural and stuff like that. So go back and give that a listen. But we got to get this show on the road, Dave, because number one, I'm pumped for our guest. And number two, we don't have as much time as we want with them. So we're bringing him in right away. He is Odin from OMB Reviews. What's going on, my man?
Nothing much. Thank you all very much for inviting me to be on. Sorry that it's taken me a while to get this planned out and for the technical difficulties to delay the stream just a little bit, but happy to be here and excited to talk with you guys.
See, because we had less time with you, we are actually so much more on time than we normally are. Typically, it's like 9:10 we're jumping on. So you're actually allowing people to get it earlier. So we appreciate you having a little technical difficulty, but you're only gonna be able to hang out with us for a little bit, which is okay. We're going to force you to come back on another time and spend more time with you at some point. So we want to jump in right away because first off, OMB Reviews. What the hell's OMB Reviews for people that don't know?
Oh yeah, so man, oh man, it's kind of crazy that I've now been doing the whole YouTube thing for quite a long time. I think 2018 is when the channel officially started. It really all came together in a major way.
Stupid, that's 7 years ago. Like I still feel like 2018 was last year.
Me too. And then it's like
wild.
And especially now that I've got kids, I have a 4-year-old, and so just my mind goes to, oh my gosh, I've been doing this as long as you've been alive and more, like an extra 3 years on top. Like there was a time in my YouTube life where you did not exist, and I'm like, that's insane to me that I've been doing it as long as it's been. But I mean, yeah, a lot of it really just, the channel really came together when The Last Jedi fiasco was going on.
You mean that masterpiece?
Oh, the masterpiece that everyone loves. That everyone is just
that movie actually brought a lot of people. As much as it divided people, it did bring people together. It did.
So many people together, myself included, with Jeremy Geeksy Gamers, because it was his videos that I discovered when all that stuff was going on. He inspired me to start actually making videos because he is a very he's that person that you realize, oh, I don't have to have a very well edited show or video to actually have people watch me. I don't have to be perfect and getting all the words right and speaking good English, all that kind of stuff. Like, no, everything's good. Exactly. And so that kind of gave me that final push, and then started diving into the numbers. And back then, I was known by Odin's movie blog, and that dates back even further because I, for a long time, just loved movies. Yeah. So I had, random blogs here and there that I'd start up, random podcasts I start trying here and there. At one point, I had, it's funny when people who've known me and have been a part of my channel for 7 years, when they, a couple of them were like, oh yeah, I actually recognize some of your stuff from Tumblr. Because I actually had a Tumblr back in the day, not like any of that crazy fan fiction nonsense.
It just feels ancient saying Tumblr.
I know.
Did you have a live journal too while we're at it? Like, what the fuck?
I think at some point I probably did. Yeah. You go back in time. You go back, you think, man, I wonder if this channel or I wonder if this page is still alive. If this page is still. I remember going back a couple of years ago, be like, I wonder if my MySpace page is still hanging out.
Yeah, and it's crazy. MySpace is still just now it's a place to go find musicians. Like musicians hang out on MySpace. Like I remember, Odin, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 36, going to be 37, and I remember it was what was it called? Farmclub.com was a spot for bands, and Ayuma was a massive spot to find underground bands and things like that. And then MySpace kind of took over, but you're just bringing me down nostalgia lane of being an old man.
Oh yeah. And I'm right there with you, man. I'm turning 37 this year.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah.
Shut up, Dave. Stop smiling.
Which just reminds me again, because this is where my brain goes because I have ADHD. It's like I love at this part of my life that now every year that I'm getting a little bit older, there's some line from a movie or from a show that I can relate it back to in some way. Yeah. So for 36, it's Harry Potter. It's so 36, but last year I had 37. So it's okay, 36. Okay, that's all I have.
I love that.
And then this year, I'm so excited because 37 means now I can do the full, I'm 37, I'm not old.
I love it.
Could call me Dennis.
So much.
But yeah, so yeah, it's been kind of crazy. So from Odin's movie blog, which over time, as that went on, took a few years, I realized how much of a mouthful that was. And so eventually I just shifted that to OMB Reviews instead, which is hilarious because, it still is something that people who've been with me for a while still will every now and then, as I like to always joke, dead name me by reference me as, Odin's movie blog or something like that.
Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. They'll call me the Gulf of Mexico. Exactly. But yeah, it's just been a fun journey. And towards the beginning is when I started really getting drifted towards box office. And that's kind of been the main focal point. And once the kids came along, I couldn't make as much content. I used to be making videos every day, 1, 2, 3 videos a day.
Listen, man, I got 2, so I understand. I know where you are. I got a 6 and a 4-year-old, so I'm right with you.
Oh, God bless you, man. Yeah, because it's the 4-year-old is it's getting to be a very fun age, but when you go through the terrible 2's 3-nager year, oh man, that's a tough one.
See, 2 was never bad. 3's is when they think they actually know something, and then it's they start telling you things they know things and they're wrong, and it's confident. I'm the confidence, but you're wrong, and then they don't want to hear it.
Yes. Yes. And then it's also at the age too where they know what's right, they understand the concepts of right and wrong or what to do and not to do, but they don't fully get it.
And
they don't understand it. Exactly.
And they're just daddy or mommy will save me from dying, so let me do something dumb as shit. And that's what they do.
That's why it's if my 1-year-old doesn't listen to me, I don't care because it's she's a baby. But it's if my 4-year-old doesn't listen to me, I'm you know exactly what I'm saying. You understand what I'm telling you right now.
So this might make me a bad parent, but my older one, she's so prim and proper. She wants to do everything by the book and right. My 6-year-old, my 4-year-old's very much me as a female, and she's just an absolute psycho. So she does dumb shit all the time. And I've come to the phrase of telling her, I look at her, I say, being dumb is a choice. Stop it. And that is something I've taken to saying to her. Maybe it makes me a terrible person, but I'm just no. You're not stupid. Being dumb is a choice at this point. Stop it. And it's fun. So I want to get to the movies with you.
Yeah.
Because one of the fun parts, if anyone that pays attention watches G&G, if you don't watch Geeks and Gamers, if you're not subscribed to OMB Reviews, I threw it up there 2 seconds ago. Just go search at OMB Reviews over on YouTube and you'll find him. It's a unique name. He's there. You'll see the Viking crest over there. It's badass. Go subscribe to him there, and also check in. Whenever G&G is on Tuesday Night Main Event and stuff, you're hanging around there. Friday Night Tights, you're hanging around that time all the time. So
sometimes you're driving on Friday Night Tights.
Sometimes you're driving on Friday Night Tights.
Driving when there's a meetup. Yes.
Yeah.
So thing is, when it comes to like that nerdosphere part, you really are the movie guy they go to for the most part. If it comes to box office numbers and things like that, you know your shit better than most people I've seen, and that includes like Film Threat and stuff like that, right? Like they're on it, but you're really good on it. So I want to ask your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
We just had Captain America Brave New World come out this weekend. It's getting, of course, because it's Marvel, all of the mainstream leftist media is giving it flowery things, reached 100 million, 192 global. Put this in perspective of where this falls, not only as a blockbuster, but as a Marvel movie.
Yeah, absolutely. What I love this movie right now because it is just leading to so many bad takes, and the number of people who have now posted either comments on my video that I posted earlier today or on some of my social media posts, especially on X, has been hilarious because it's people who think they've gotten.
What are you doing, Dave?
They think that they somehow like now own me in some way. And basically the mindset they have is, oh, look at this idiot right here. He says the movie only made $180 million. Well, it's actually made almost $200 million worldwide. And so this is like the best. This is the most successful film that they've had in X amount of time. And my favorite part of all of this is that the number that everyone's citing, and you actually cited it yourself. You said $192 million.
Yep, that's what they're saying.
That's Box Office Mojo. So the thing about Box Office Mojo, and this is something I learned a long time ago, Box Office Mojo used to be the place to be. I lived on that site. Mm-hmm. I learned about that site when I was in college. So back in like 2010, 2011, I was of all classes, I was in an intro to radio class. And it was an awesome class. Like the teacher was great. I mean, the teacher was great. She, clearly it was a university. And so a lot of the people in the class probably had certain political views. But for her, like when I mentioned, the people that I listened to and talk radio, she was like, clearly she's like, I don't listen to them, but I respect them for the fact that they have done so much for radio. Like,
tell me you were a Rush baby. Tell me you were a Rush baby.
I wasn't a firm Rush baby, but it
Fuck
was within,
one of us. One of us.
So no, we actually listened more to local broadcasting. So Walton and Johnson in the morning. I don't know. That's more of a southern, like Texas,
yeah, we're
Louisiana.
Jersey boys.
Yeah. So like Walton and Johnson's huge in the South, and one of them has since passed away. But that's what my dad listened to all the time. So I heard a lot of him. Mm-hmm. And then there was another guy, John Osterland, who also was in that same space as well. I listened a lot to him, and they were more like you could say independent, conservative, libertarian leading personality types. But that class to me was so important because it showed me that there could be professors who would probably have very different political views than me, but were able to still respect the fact that they did so much for the radio, in this case, the radio industry itself.
God, that wouldn't happen now. I could not see that happening now. No. Like if someone like listens to Glenn Beck, who is, one of the most influential people now, and a kid mentioned it to him, they would probably be chastised. He says, all right, he's a blah, blah, blah. Like they couldn't realize that even the leftist Radio Hall of Fame put this man in 3 years ago, right? So it's like, he's obviously done something, but you can't do that now. Like it's such a different world than it was.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so but in that class of all places, that was the place that she had sent us to check out, Box Office Mojo, because it had a lot of news articles. It had a lot of things related to the industry, just in general, like not just, it didn't really have much with radio, but it had a lot to do with just general industry, monetary stuff. Like it used to be that site. It was the place where all of the wonks went to just dive into the numbers and just to try to figure things out. And then Amazon bought them up and everything changed. Once the format of the site changed, that's when it went downhill, because they started to put certain things behind a paywall, behind paid features. The actual free stuff became almost unusable or very difficult to manage. And ever since then, too, they've had a lot more mistakes in their recording. So the $192 million is being reported. This is what their projections are based off of, that include tomorrow's box office.
So they're projecting it out and saying, hey,
Yes.
this is what we think.
And normal projections are like that, okay? Because this is true. What you get is you get numbers reported on Saturday from Friday. Okay, we can see, all right, this is the number being reported from Friday, so we can now make some guesses as to what Saturday is going to look like. Because you can have a pretty good metric on the day that the box office is currently occurring, what your drop-off's looking like, especially that Friday to Saturday. That's why Sunday is the day that they give you the full weekend projection. Because they say, okay, here's what we saw Friday to Saturday, drop-wise. So now we can make some, looking at history, using analytics, we can say, okay, the Saturday to Sunday drop will probably be somewhere in this range. Ergo, our projected weekend is this. And then on Monday, Tuesday, the actuals come out, and it's, 1 or 2 million add or subtract, here and there.
Gotcha.
What Box Office Mojo does sometimes, unfortunately, more so than not, is on these holiday weekends, when it's like a 3-day weekend, is they put ahead what they think the Monday number is going to be when it's still Sunday. And you have not actually gotten your Saturday, Sunday actual drop.
Now, are they treating it as like another weekend day? Is that why they give it that projection? Because, it's a federal holiday, but not everyone has off for President's Day, right? Like your kids do, but a lot of people don't. Like I don't. I know David doesn't. So it's like, are they still treating it as if it's another weekend holiday day that's going to get those type of traffic that you're going to get?
And this is the other thing, is that it depends on the news source you're reading, and you have to be very careful, because, and I warned people about this before the weekend. I was like, hey, when you get these headlines coming out that are going to claim, hey, this movie made X amount of money on this day, or it made X amount of money for this weekend, or made X amount compared to the other Captain America movies or whatever it might be, look to see what number of days they're referencing.
Yep.
And if they're referencing, because what they've been doing up to the lead up of all this, Tony at Deadline is the worst for this, right? Anthony D'Alessandro is his full name. I call him Tony because I have no respect for him. But so Tony at Deadline, he is, all of his headlines are always ridiculous. He loves throwing puns in. He thinks he's so clever. And so one of the things that he's been really pushing, and what a lot of these people have been, is by saying, oh yeah, this movie is expected to make, so much in comparison to the 2014 film, saying, oh, this film has a chance of making as much as the 2014 film did in its opening weekend. This is Winter Soldier. The issue is that when Winter Soldier came out in 2014, that was a regular weekend, a 3-day total weekend box office, versus what the number they're using on this movie, which is the 4-day projected estimate. And that's a very different thing. You're giving an extra day's advantage. And even when you do that, you still either barely get above what the 3-day total was for that previous film, especially when you are not adjusting for these numbers for inflation. That's what I was going to
say, in terms of how much more the tickets are, right? Like,
yep,
tickets were significantly cheaper 11 years ago. Well, fuck me, 11 years ago, but 11 years ago than they are now, where, you're lucky if you get a $20 ticket, right? Yes. You're lucky if you find that. Yes. Where back then it was maybe still 12, 13, 14, 15 at the most, but you could get a decent number, maybe $12 a ticket. So that is a ton of extra money added onto it.
Yes. And they do not actually tell you that. And this is something that, again, Tony is notorious for, is he does these comparisons, but he never does inflation, whether that be in just inflationary totals, just comparing apples to apples, or doing what I like to do, which is to say, hey, here's what we likely have as far as total ticket sales for this weekend, based off the average ticket price of that year, based off of whatever the, inflationary rate has been and has changed with over time. And when you do all of those things, this movie, based off of, because this did not have a $100 million domestic opening as some people are running with, because that's assuming you're looking at Box Office Mojo at that point, in Box Office Mojo, and you can look at it and you can see exactly what they're doing, because it shows you right now they're projecting $11 million on Monday. That they've already got that counted in there, and so that's what they think. That's what they think it's going to be. And again, it could be that, but the fact that they're saying it now means they have these idiots coming to my comment section, coming into these posts on Twitter saying, you're saying it made only 180 million. It actually made like 200 million. And that makes it the biggest opening in history for this franchise or whatever it might be. It's like, again, even then they're still wrong, but it's even
I love
funnier.
that Butthead is the one that's in your comment. That's Butthead from Beavis and Butthead, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, basically.
So,
It's
did you
hilarious,
see
though.
the movie yet? Because I sure as hell
Unfortunately, yes.
didn't. And what is your opinion of it? Because I've seen people giving it like mediocre numbers, right? Like not great, not as bad as we thought it was going to be, but still not good, I think is what I've fairly seen for the most part.
Yeah. The only respectable grade that I can still disagree with, but still respect the opinion on, are people who give it a decent grade. So I go based off a site called Criticlist, which I just love. It's been so much fun.
Criticlist, and you write some good shit for Criticlist.
Yeah, I just love the site, and it's so funny too because I
want to get some people from Criticlist or whoever started on the show, because I feel like they're
reach
just
out to
so
Blaine.
important.
He loves talking to people,
Yeah.
and he's awesome. Yeah, reach out to Blaine. He's great. But it's so funny because every time I bring them up, I always have to remind people I've actually never been sponsored by them. It's just that I love the site so much, and I'm friends with Blaine now, and so it's like I will obviously give that connection of like the fact that I've befriended the guy that created it, but it was like, again, just natural progression of using his site. And
people could be friends with
buying into
people
it.
on the internet without
It's
getting
amazing.
something out of it or wanting something out of it. Like,
I know,
my God,
it's insane.
it's
so
crazy.
insane.
It's almost like you could be a nice fucking person and not suck. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, we're doing it wrong because we've been nice and we fucking haven't gotten anywhere.
Saying those comments. Usually, those get dug back up in the future. So be careful saying.
I mean, listen. I might become a piece of shit later, but that's okay. Like, at least I'll be being who I am. No, I'm kidding. But so what was your opinion of the movie?
So overall, I gave it on that scale a bogus score. So in the 20s out of 100. Okay. So about a 2 out of 10, 2.5 out of 10 for me. So not a good score at all. Like it's not a good film. I do think that some people are hating on it probably a bit too much. Could be for the lulls, could be for the clicks, could be for a wide variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to the fact that the movie has no stakes. And that's why I think the biggest criticism I have of it is that you don't feel like anything matters. And it's made worse when you have a character in there. And again, Anthony Mackie, I like him. I like him as an actor.
Yeah.
I like him as an actor. He's been great as Falcon. I think that had they made a Falcon movie, then we would have a very different discussion. But he's not Captain America. And this is not really a Captain America movie. It does not really feel like anything from the previous iterations that have been given. And it's a mess. It's a narrative mess. And that's why anytime you hear the reports about reshoots or they had these test screenings and the test screenings were terrible, and so they had to cut this and that. And I mean, it's a tonal mess because of that. And you can tell things were added in last minute. There's a whole character with another great actor, Giancarlo Esposito, who it honestly feels like they just copy and pasted into the movie just to have him.
And that's all the D+ shows as well, right? There's no stakes. Like even in the Loki show where it was supposed to be introducing the next big bad and everything like that, like it felt so downgraded. And it's exactly what you talk about all the time, Dave. Everything's a fucking joke. Everything has a punchline. Everything's a joke. Where if you go back to the older movies, yes, they had some one-liners, mostly coming from Tony, right? Because Tony was kind of a smartass. But you felt some magnitude to it. You felt like you knew they were going to win, but how they were going to get there and what were going to be the repercussions of it, right? Now, nothing matters. It's all a joke. Everyone's clowning around. Ha ha. Oh, we won. I'm Loki and I love a female version of me because I'm a fucking weirdo. Ha ha ha. Like, there's, like you said, like there's no stakes to anything going on in Marvel right now. So, I mean, I'll wait to see it. I really have had no interest in seeing anything Marvel.
I'm not
for
seeing
a long time.
It's not worth seeing. It's something where at some point there will be a nice little like 5-minute clip that has the entire movie summed up, or there'll be like a Cinnamon Sins or something, right? That goes through all of the main key points to it. At best case scenario, there's a pitch meeting for it, and then you'll get everything that you need to know about the movie without actually having to see the movie, and it will be that much better and that much more entertaining because at least with pitch meetings, you're getting some quality comedy, unlike what you're getting from Marvel these days.
Or you guys can go to OMB Reviews and watch Odin's review of the movie. There you go. Plug it.
Though time, I know, right? But I will say, check out my critic list instead because this is something when you have kids and they're at that age, like when they're older, it's gonna be interesting to see what YouTube life is like when they're older, because at this stage of life, it's just like I can't really commit
Odin, this is
to
why I
anymore.
do the show at 9:00.
Yes.
This is why we do the show at 9 o'clock, because I get the kids to bed.
I get it.
And it's like there's nights where my younger one, again, the little asshole version of me, does not want to go to sleep. And I'm sitting there and I'm texting David. I'm like, ask the guest if we can go 15 minutes later. She won't go to bed. Like, this is the reason why I do it. And I completely understand you. I can't wait till they're older so I can be like, go piss off somewhere so I can do an hour, like do something. But no,
it's one of the things that drives me crazy about FNT is that, one, it doesn't take place at night, and two, by the time we start, I'm literally getting home from work, so I'm having to like rush home from school because I teach and get changed, like get all this stuff ready, and then jump on in time. And so it's like, that's why usually, like, as the stream's starting, I'm like chewing on some goldfish or something, like just to have a little bit of a snack in me.
And they're always fucking with you for it. And it's okay. It is what it is. But you know what, though? It's like they're always late anyway. Like, you could probably wait about 40 minutes before they actually get into anything. They just like make fun of each other for 40 minutes, including you. And then that's when something, I'm not going to say serious because it's FNT, but that's when something gets started. So you could probably be 40 minutes late every single time.
In the old days, it would have made more sense when we did intros. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
Ever since we stopped doing intros, it's gotten a lot better. And kudos to Gary, because he has made it a lot. It doesn't seem like it sometimes, but it's a much more tightly run ship.
Well,
we actually start very close to time, and we've been going almost exactly 4 hours. Whereas beforehand, it was like maybe we'll go 4.5. Sometimes we'd go 5, and it was like, oh my gosh.
And you know, the thing is too, like if you're coming to FNT, you probably know most of the people there anyway. You follow them, you like them anyway. So it's like there's no need to reintroduce you guys every single time. But I want to keep moving here because, like I said, our time is short with you. Let's get into some movies this year. Give us a list of potential movies that you have that might crack $1 billion.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing I would wrap up with Brave New World is that with where that film currently is tracking, one, I can say for sure it's not going to get to $1 billion. But two, it's also one where it's probably going to, based off of how poorly it's doing. I mean, let's just put this into perspective for those people out there who were like, oh, this is the best thing in a while. This is doing Quantum Mania numbers. No one said Quantum Mania was a huge hit.
And they forget that Guardians exist, right? Guardians has to be their best thing in recent history.
Yeah. But the other thing too, and this is an important point, is that the assumption was that Quantum Mania was barely a break even, but that was when the budget was supposedly $200 million. When the tax returns from the UK came out, and we found out it actually cost them $330 million with the tax rebate. So that means that they actually spent like $370 to make the movie, and then they got a lot back.
Probably more for promotion too, right? You're probably looking at
that's not promotion. All of that budget, production budget does not include any marketing. So you're talking about them having spent over $400 million to both make and to promote that movie. That film did not make its money back, making like 450-ish million worldwide. The fact this film, Brave New World, is tracking behind that movie, both domestically and worldwide, based off the numbers currently, again, could be bad. I personally think this film is going to do better in the long run than Quantum Mania did. However, they're both getting very similar kind of feedbacks, right? The critics don't like it. The audience reaction hasn't been great either. The word of mouth has not been strong. That was also true for Quantum Mania.
And that's huge.
So you could see this film probably, right now, the range I'm giving it is $400 to $650 million worldwide.
I'll watch it on D+ in a few weeks.
Yep. But going to the $1 billion question of which films are going to make $1 billion. So there's some out there that are pretty obvious. So Avatar, Fire and Ash.
Yes.
I don't want it to. I hate the Avatar franchise. This is one of the... Anyone who's watched me for any length of time knows I can go off on a rant about how I cannot stand James Cameron's world that he's built with Avatar.
They also need to be sued by The Last Airbender because they're just quite literally stealing their fucking books.
I know.
Avatar, in and of itself, even though now it's actually closer in time being made, but it reminds me of Pennywise, where it just comes back and haunts the psyche of people, but then they forget about it.
Yeah.
Like everyone acknowledges it for a small amount of time, and it's just forgotten and it's gone.
And I think people forget, like it is visually a well done movie,
Yeah.
but I think it's pretty hollow except for colonizer bad. That's kind of the whole fucking premise. I didn't see Way of Water because I don't
Good.
care about the Na'vi, to be quite honest. I actually don't give a shit about their plight. Like I'm not, they don't matter, to be quite honest. Like I didn't get any connection to them in the first one. I was kind of rooting for the fucking military to come and level the tree. But the thing is, like, if you want to go see something visually appealing, I guess that's fucking dope. Go watch it. But
Yeah.
I didn't, I thought the first one was fine. I thought it was a decent movie, but it didn't make me want to see the second one. So
yeah, the first one lost me as soon as unobtainium was used as an actual thing. I was like, excuse me, did you just call this unobtainium?
That's an amazing name.
Yeah, you don't remember that?
Excuse me?
I never watched the movie. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Wait, you've never seen the first Avatar?
I've never seen. I have no interest in it.
Oh yeah, that was the oil basically on the planet, right? It was unobtainium. It was so bad. But yeah, so despite my hatred of it, I can't deny the fact that it's a global juggernaut franchise, and so I think that it's every film so far. There's only been 2. It's crazy it's been this long, but it's only been 2 films. Has made less. Like the last one, I believe, did make less than the previous one when you adjust for inflation. When you again apples to apples. I think this one's gonna make a lot less, but it's still gonna make $1 billion. Like this is a $1 billion to $2 billion film, I think, in Fire and Ash. So that's like to me the safest bet for $1 billion this year is that one. There's a couple others that some people have on their list of having a good chance. And so the one that seems the most realistic to me is Jurassic World Rebirth. And the reason why is because those films have been terrible. The Jurassic World films have just not been very good, but they have made money, especially internationally. And when the last film barely cranked out $1 billion, like there was, it took until like the last week or 2 of its run for it to finally cross $1 billion. One could not, especially with this kind of aspect of rebirth, reboot, trying to revitalize the franchise, bringing in new actors in. You can't rule out the fact that this movie has a chance at $1 billion. Out of the other ones, like I think it has a better chance than Fantastic Four. I don't think Fantastic Four is going to do it. I really don't. No. It would have to be a great film for them to do that. I don't think Wicked for Good is going to do that either. The most recent one, 750-ish million worldwide. That's a strong number. It's not going to really build on that on the next one. It's going to probably do about the same, if maybe a little bit less. Superman, I don't think is going to make $1 billion either.
It'd have to be a fantastic, like same thing with Fantastic Four. It'd have to be a great movie, and people would be like, "Wow, finally good Superman." No.
I think we need to wait for Soups. I could see if they put out a fucking fantastic final or upcoming trailer because the big criticisms of the first one was this looks like the CW at times, right? That's what I saw a lot of people, even though I enjoyed the trailer, I thought the brightness of it was fucking great. I like the way, the costume gets criticism, deservedly so, but I thought everything else was kind of cool with it. I am interested in seeing it. If they put out a really good trailer, then I think that would give it a much better chance. If it gets a beautifully done trailer, touch-ups are obviously there, like looks like it's going to be a well-made, hopeful, good Soups movie, then I think then it gets the chance of it. And I think the same thing with Fantastic Four, because right now they gave you like kind of the aesthetic and the feel with this first one, and maybe people are jiving with it, maybe people aren't. But if you sit there and you look and maybe you erase Pedro Pascal somehow, you might get to $1 billion.
I just think it's a steep climb for both of them right now at this point. That's the thing. Like, superhero fatigue might not be real in the sense of people don't want superheroes, but superhero movie fatigue, what's come out lately from superheroes, people don't really want to see that as much. Because, I mean, you can talk about Marvel Rivals. People love it. I played a whole bunch. So superheroes aren't dead in essence. But movie-wise, people are like very trepidatious about going to see them.
Yeah, and I want to come in with Nate G. He's one of our resident super fans with Mosin. See you up there. What's up, guys? Nate G coming in. That dude in the full-body black suit better not be Ultraman. It probably is. Nate, you better know by now. It probably is, right? Like, I could imagine it is. All right, so Odin, what are the other ones? Any other ones that you see having a chance? So right now, the only surefire one that you see is Avatar.
Yeah,
any others?
Avatar, I think, is guaranteed. Jurassic World Rebirth, I think, has at this point, I'd say a 50-50 shot. But even if it doesn't get $1 billion, it's going to get $900 million range.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of a franchise. Even though the films haven't really been all that good. But just going to the Superman as well, like the Film Threat guys, I think put it in the best words possible. They said the trailer needed to be a home run, and instead they just hit a double.
Yeah.
And like, I honestly think that was the best way to explain it, was like, it did fine. A double is a good thing to get, but it's not what you needed to do to build the hype for your movie. And so now, since you don't really have that, like, you only make a first impression one time, you could make another good trailer, but think about how many people are like, nope, I've already seen that first trailer. I don't want to see anything else until the film actually comes out. You're now going to have the kind of reaction, a walk-off Grand Slam type of reaction, in order for it to get to $1 billion. So again, it can still do well. It can still make money. It doesn't have to make $1 billion to do any of that, but that's the metric for a lot of people success-wise these days. DC has not really been that much of a powerhouse when it comes to their box office. People almost forget about that a lot. A lot of their films were not the big successes that they may have thought, especially because they had these massive budgets. And they've only made, funny thing, I believe it's still true, only one DC film has ever made $1 billion, and it was the first Aquaman movie.
Yes, it was Aquaman. Oh wow!
And I'm like, of all the movies,
That's
like,
it.
Not the one on my bingo card for $1 billion films.
None of the Batmans, none of the Christopher Nolan's Batman. Man of Steel or anything.
So no,
like
I'm
that.
talking. Yeah, so DC
DCEU?
DCEU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they mostly suck, so they deserve not
Yeah.
to make $1 billion. So
Yeah.
my last question on the movies thing. I know we're moving quick, but we only have you for a little bit longer.
I have a little bit more time, so we can slow the pace a little bit, because there are a few other films that I think have a potential for $1 billion.
So go for it. You give me a rundown.
Absolutely. So, man, these are sleepers in my opinion, but it's some that should make a bit more sense. So first, I don't think anyone should sleep on Zootopia 2.
It should be really good because the first one's fantastic.
And I didn't realize this, but the first film made $1 billion.
Yeah. Deservedly so.
Agreed. It's an underrated film, in my opinion.
I think it made $1 billion off of the trailer where the fucking sloths were the DMV workers. I think alone, parents were like, I will go take my kid to that movie because that related with so many people, and it was really good. I'm excited for the second Zootopia. My kids love it.
Yeah. For me, it's like, I'm like, as far as like the actual property itself, I'm like, has it been too long? Like, is that magic gone? It's hard to say at this point, but after what we saw with Moana 2, and Moana 2 was not a good film. No, it was one of these mediocre films that was not getting huge praise.
It was supposed to be TV. It was supposed to be a TV show, and you saw it during the film. It was very
still choppy. Made $1 billion, and I was like, I was calling that one early. I'm like, do not sleep on Moana 2 because that fan base is massive. I don't think it's hard to gauge. I don't think Zootopia is as large as Moana because there's a very specific demographic that Moana was able to drive out, especially with the younger girls and therefore the mother-daughter dynamic. Whereas Zootopia, there's some element of that, and there's obviously a bit of a broader base, but I still think it's going to be enough for them. Again, with the fact that Zootopia 1 did better than Moana 1, and I think that if they got to market it right. If they market it right, if they hit the feels, if they remind people why they love that first movie, Zootopia 2, I think is a very good shot for $1 billion. And I think
bring Shakira back. Somehow bring Shakira back, and you're in good shape because Shakira's renaissance is amazing.
Yeah. And also, like, because I don't know if y'all have seen the Zootopia Plus show that they
a little bit. My kids watch some of it.
There's a few episodes in there, and like, like most of them are pretty good. There's one episode where it's Chief Bogo and Clawhauser, and they're doing like this Dancing with the Stars type thing. And for me, I was like, okay, ended up being like a daydream, but it was like, that was like one where I was like, it is what it is. But there's one that goes into the origin story of Mr. Big, and I love that episode.
That's fantastic.
So much.
I didn't pay attention much. The girls threw it on, and it was kind of one of those things like, Daddy's busy, go melt your brain a little, and they found that.
Yeah, my son, he goes through different stages, with his films and with his shows, because we only let him watch stuff on weekends. And so we typically watch a lot on the weekends, since we don't let him watch anything during the week. And so he went through this huge kick where he was obsessed with Zootopia, and he was obsessed with Zootopia Plus. And so we saw those episodes several times, and they were short little self-contained episodes. But yeah, the history of Mr. Big, if you like that movie at all, or like that character of the little mouse that's called Mr. Big and is a mafiosa, you should watch that episode, because
I might go watch it on my own.
Oh, it's well worth your time.
Just Penguin condensed into an episode.
Pretty basically.
So
but in a kid's way, in a kid-friendly way.
Where does How to Train Your Dragon fit?
I was just about to bring
there
that
we
one
go.
up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's another one not to sleep on, because look, I like the first film. I think the second one's okay. I think after that, I honestly forget which way, because I think I've seen the they made 3 total or 4 total?
They made 3 total.
Okay,
And
so I've seen the first and second.
Riders, which was actually really successful.
Okay, good, yeah. So so my brain goes in that with the first one was good, second one was good, third one I have not seen, or maybe I did see, but it was like, for me, I guess, kind of forgettable in that way. But all 3 of those films were huge hits, massive fan base, massive people, and the fact that it's a criticism for me. This is what seems to be a shot-for-shot remake in live action of the animated, at least in certain sequences, right?
Yeah.
The whole aspect of the meeting of him and Toothless and the putting the hand on, it was like just directly taken from it. That's a good thing in that it makes people remember. It doesn't make the mistake that the freaking Lion King movies made, which was like, let's make these hyper realistic so that you can't even tell who is who.
Any of the live actions that have animals in Disney, they all suck because they're lifeless little weird fucking looking things. They're terrible.
Yes, absolutely. I have no emotion at all, which is why I cannot stand any of those movies. So the fact that instead they went for a completely, like, almost exact replica of Toothless animated, but now you also still have an animated dragon too. That to me is going to be the question mark, is the fact that it seems like a shot-for-shot remake. It seems like this complete cash grab of, yep, we're just gonna make this movie because we know a lot of y'all love the first one, and so y'all think y'all might get something different with this one in some kind of way, or you want to see it done in a slightly different way. It's gonna be interesting to see where this falls, but I would also not sleep on that one either. I think the fan base for that movie is massive, kind of like Moana 2. And I think probably more so male dominated in that instance.
A lot of ways, yeah.
People love dragons, man. So,
the thing is with the live actions with me, I wish they would just be shot for shot general remakes of the cartoons. Obviously there's liberties with some things cartoons could do that humans can't, right? But for me, if you're going to make a live action, I hate every single Disney song that they've added in any of these fucking live actions. They all suck. Like the only one I think like that's been any decent was Evermore by the Beast, and it still sucked. Okay, because the guy could sing well. It's the only reason it was decent, because he has a good voice. But they're all stupid. I Can't Be Silenced by Jasmine. You're already the strongest woman in Disney history. You're a Muslim woman going against the king in a male-driven society. I don't need to talk about how fucking strong you are, okay? It's like,
you know what the sad thing is, though? I will be honest, okay? It's a great song. I hate the lyrics of it. I hate that they put it in the movie. Couldn't stop listening to it. I was like, this song is catchy as hell.
It is catchy. It is,
and that's something also for my back. I'm a musical theater geek. So I grew up musical theater. I grew up theater in general. So like my childhood was hilarious. So I did theater, but at the same time I also played hockey. So I was also a hockey player
in Texas. They have a big hockey scene in Texas, or was it just you doing it in the sun?
So actually born and raised Louisiana. Even worse actually for hockey. You could think.
Yeah, what the hell?
We actually had a hockey team at one point, not NHL, but we had a hockey team called the New Orleans Brass, and they were so much fun to go to.
That's awesome.
But clearly not a huge hockey market, so it didn't last very long. But
that's
man,
awesome.
It was fun to go to those games, but no, it was roller hockey. So I did roller hockey because roller rinks are down there. But yeah, so I did all that. I did swimming, but then I also did theater. And so it's like I had this very good mix of different things when I was younger.
You were the jock that stood up for the drama nerds when any of the jocks were trying to mess with them. You were like, hey, that's me, dickheads.
Yes. It's like, I am one of them. Leave me alone.
They could make you Gaston in plays because you were actually strong. There you go.
No. It couldn't have been Gaston. I was too thin. I was way too thin when I was growing up. Yeah, when I was growing up, I was a skinny little thing. I think I've cursed my son with this as well because I was a picky eater, and he's now becoming a picky eater as well. And so I'm like, don't become bread boy like I was for a couple summers. They're like, all he eats is bread.
Odin, I feel like me and you are like fucking separated brothers.
Yeah, he always used to eat
My
bread.
mom said I used to like fall asleep eating bread when I was younger, like with just bread in my hand, like going for napping and shit like that. Like this is bizarre. You're fucking with us. Like
now, the real
someone
question,
told you about this.
Did you ever? Now here's the real question that can really test it. Did you ever make a butter sandwich?
No.
I've
eaten, but I have eaten just bread with butter on it without the sandwich. So just plain
probably
bread,
with toast
not
or something.
toasted. No, not toasted.
Oh, okay.
Untoasted, just fucking butter with bread because I was a weirdo.
See, for me, I had one slice, slathered it in butter, folded it, butter sandwich.
See, the weird
Delicious.
thing about me, people are gonna judge me on this. David knows where I'm going. David, what was mine and Dad's snack when we were younger?
Are you talking about the raw spaghetti?
We used to eat raw fucking pasta.
Oh no!
Yeah,
oh no!
I can do that too. I actually enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't do it really anymore. My wife is like, "You're gonna die. You're gonna get worms. Like, don't do that." She works in a hospital, so she's like, "You're gonna die." But so that's my weird thing. The internet might roast me for that one, but it's okay. All right, so I want to jump into our last topic here, because I think we got out the movies that might make $1 billion, and that's
Actually, hold up. I have one more movie to ask about.
Oh yeah,
a Minecraft movie.
No, that film's gonna. I think that film's gonna flop hard.
With everything that came out about it, I mean everything that they released, it looks like it should.
Yes,
but I feel
Jack
like
Black is the worst person for the main character.
I know. Because I think it's gonna be awful. I think it shouldn't get there. But I do not. I feel like it's bad to doubt the ability of people who love that game to still go and see it.
I don't think parents are going to take their kids. I think it's going to be so fucking bad. I think it's going to be so bad that parents will refuse to take their kids.
I don't know about that one, man.
You might get the high school group and the middle school group that gets the kids dropped off. That might give it a shot, but I don't know.
And that's the thing, though. That's the thing, because if any group is going to actually show up for it, it's going to be the younger kids and their families. It's going to be the younger kids and their parents, because as someone who actually talks to, teenagers, teaches high school level, I can say right now, they are the kind of group that will look at a trailer like what they dropped for that and say, what the hell is this?
I'm a driving instructor, and all the kids that I talk to that are nerds, that are gamers, have said to me, and these are 16, 17-year-old kids, go, that movie looks fucking terrible.
Yep.
Like, I don't understand, like, that's not like, it's nothing like what I play at all.
Yes. And that is the key right there, is that it does not feel like the game at all. No. It feels like a completely derivative of it, and it has nothing like, you could argue the whole Jack Black factor. People try to make connections with Kung Fu Panda and try to make connections with Super Mario Bros, the Mario Brothers movie, right? But those are very specific IPs, very specific types of marketing, and right now this marketing, the question really is, who is this trying to appeal to? Because unless you're like the youngest of the young kids who don't care for anything and are stupid, because again, when you're younger, you don't really know a whole lot. So all you see is, oh look, that's an Enderman. Oh, look at that.
There's a crawler. I know what that is.
It's a creeper. I see the creeper. I want to see it blow up. Oh, it went boom. I mean, that's all you're gonna get.
I put Jack Black being the main character. I don't even know what the fuck his name is. Steve. As it would be like if we made Seth Rogen the leader of like in a Skyrim movie as the lead of Skyrim. That's exactly what I put Jack Black there, because it's another one that's like, you don't make no fucking
Jack Black
sense.
Is everywhere, because I love School of Rock. Like old Jack Black stuff.
I'm a Tenacious D fan. The band. I listened to the fucking
Pick
band.
of Destiny was great, man.
Exactly.
But I could put aside his retarded politics, right? Like, I don't care about any of that. He's been a pretty good actor his whole life, but it's like this isn't for him, and I hope it flops.
Yeah,
but
the only other films, because like I like to play around with the Grok, the AI tool and stuff.
Grok's fun.
And so in their list of movies, they also mentioned things like the film Michael. So it's like, I think it's supposed to be an actual like accurate telling of Michael Jackson's story. So
has a chance. People like their biopics,
especially if it's good.
I don't know about $1 billion, because those kinds of films don't really do that. Yeah. So, but maybe a sleeper hit.
Not sleeper hit.
It could have a
Nacho
sleeper hit.
Libre, yes.
Not a
absolutely.
billion.
We had a Michael movie back. I think it was a 1990s movie, which was about like his dad being a piece of shit, and would like basically
it was
remember
like
that one.
TV movie.
It was
I
like
think,
a TV movie,
right?
but it was a really popular one. I think it was played on like ABC or something.
Oh,
Like,
the
it was
Yeah.
ABC.
the scene with the mouse like destroyed
Dude,
me.
Yeah, I'm scarred because I remember I liked MJ growing up,
Yeah.
and just like the scene of it, like the dad like beating the fuck out of them with the belt and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
if they didn't do a good enough performance, like the thing is, it's going to be compared to that for our generation, right, Odin? Because
Yeah.
we had a movie already to compare it to. So if they're gonna,
He made
not-
friends with the mouse,
oh,
and then the dad gets a
Stop.
mouse trap,
stop,
and you're just like,
no,
what? That was his friend. He was his friend.
That's rough. It's very rough.
were you giving me the Harry
I'm
Potter there?
triggering-
You were his friend.
Exactly. He was your friend.
I'm
I'm glad that you picked up on that. I'm glad that you picked up on.
Dude, David is probably the least Harry Potter fan in our house, and he still likes
I
it.
still know a decent amount.
But my sister and my sister has Lumos and Nox on her freaking light switches because she's a
Oh, yeah.
loser. But
we have that too, but I set it up for my wife because my wife's a huge nerd. She doesn't use it a lot, but we have it nonetheless set up.
I love it. So, last thing we want to ask you about movie wise, David was curious about Christopher Nolan's Odyssey and some of the casting choices. So, number one, I want your opinion on how you think this is going to go, because I feel like the Odyssey is a difficult movie to make in a lot of ways, because it is such a base epic story that we see expanded upon so much now in a lot of different ways. So it's like when they were trying to make Beowulf, right? Beowulf is hard because Beowulf, we've seen the story of Beowulf so many times told in so many different ways that the history of it doesn't matter of how important it is.
Yeah. And...
Odyssey is the same way, where I explained to my wife never read the Odyssey.
Oh, really?
I love the Iliad and the Odyssey. I think they're both fucking masterpieces.
I have to roast her for that one.
And yeah, you do. But for me, and I explained it to her, and she was like, that sounds really good. I'm like, yeah, but it's the basis of
No shit.
so many movies that we see now. So what is your
Stories.
opinion on the Odyssey being made by Nolan and casting choices and things like that?
The latest one.
I'm just so mixed on it, man, because I have a love and hate relationship with Nolan, because there's some things from him that I just adore, that I think are brilliant. I mean, you know, people like to talk about The Dark Knight, and I think there's a good reason for that, but
Batman Begins is better. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say, I go back to Batman Begins.
It's better.
I mean, it honestly, to me, is a movie where it's like, as much as I love Dark Knight, there's specific moments in Dark Knight that I like watching.
Ledger is the legend of that movie. Like,
yes. Whereas Batman Begins, it's like, that's the movie I'd rather watch.
Oh my God.
Like, that's the one I'd rather put on at night to see the entirety of the movie. Whereas for Dark Knight, it's like there are certain scenes, and luckily one of those scenes happens to be at the very beginning, because I think that the whole bank robbery scene is just brilliantly put together. And I don't care if it's derivative of other things.
It's so good.
I still think it's great. So I have that love-hate relationship with him. I'm, weird because I hated. I won't say I hated. I really didn't like Oppenheimer.
I didn't actually see Oppenheimer.
I got very triggered by. I got triggered. Okay, I got very triggered by the sexual stuff he put in there, because all I could think of was, Nolan, you did not have to put those in there. You knew that those were completely unnecessary, and yet you chose to. An active choice was made to put those things in there. And that bothers me, because it's like, in general, when it comes to unnecessary nudity and sexuality, that stuff bothers me in general. But when you have a film like Oppenheimer, which is a history movie, and it's a movie that honestly should be one that you would think you can bring your kids to, or at the very least bring a high school class to learn something, but you're going to put that in your movie, like that, I mean, that tells me a lot more about him as a person than it does anything else. And so, like, that bothered me quite a bit, that the dude would actually feel it was necessary somehow.
If there's no buildup or impact to it, I can understand how that can be bothersome too.
Like, it's also weird because he does that because he's hooking up with a bunch of commie chicks, and but also shielding him by trying to basically portray that he was not actually a commie. It's like you can't have him being bewitched by commie sex tricks and then act like he wasn't doing any of that stuff.
And like I could
Yeah.
compare it to like The Departed, right? Like The Departed had his whole moment where like he was making out with Vera Farmiga, like you see her in underwear and a bra, whatever. But there was a purpose to why that scene happened, right? Like you were getting it was helping you understand the cat and mouse game and the emotions and everything going into it. There was a purpose to that scene, whether you enjoy that type of stuff or not. At least you could see why Scorsese brought it into there in terms of the character building. If it has no place in terms of character building, I could see how it could be bothersome for, especially if you don't like that stuff to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and that's why I just really, that one was very overrated in my opinion for that reason. But I also liked Tenet, even though I think any criticism of that movie is here's the thing, I say I like Tenet. Any criticism you have is completely legitimate. I don't even have to know what your criticism is. I will just say it is legitimate because his sound design was awful for the movie. His sound design was awful. You couldn't hear anything. And the only reason why I like it is because I was warned about the sound before going into it. With ADHD, I have the ability to hyperfocus. And I went in with my hyperfocus and I understood 80 to 85% of what was being said. And so because I understood what was going on, I was like, oh, I actually kind of like this. This is kind of cool. And then as soon as it ended, that I was like, man, I could see why a lot of people hate this movie.
Well, if you're not warned about that, it makes sense,
Yes.
right? You'd be like, what the fuck? Is this ever going to get louder? Like, what am
Yep.
I doing? Like, that would bother me.
Is there subtitles? Can we put the subtitles on in the theater, please?
Yeah.
No subtitles. Okay. Here's what it is in that way. But yeah, getting to the Odyssey, I think that honestly, it's too early. It's too early to say one way or the other. Because some of the casting is good. I think that I, in general, like names in movies like Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Lupita Nyong'o. I think Pattinson's listed here.
Yep, Charlize Theron,
Charlize Theron, John Bernthal. But then you also have ones that really concern me, like having. I'm sorry, but her name is Ellen Page. Like having her in the film is concerning to me. But I would also put Charlize Theron up there now too, because she has proven herself to be a bit of an insane person.
Yep.
With how she's been raising her kids.
They're gonna make Elliot Page Odysseus.
Yeah.
That's gonna be Ellen Page is gonna be
Or
no,
something.
Ellen Page will be Achilles. Will be Achilles as in the beginning when they're like talking.
Yeah, it'll be something like that. But
It'll be
yeah, I
something
mean,
stupid.
you have so many good people in this. I think Mia Goth is attached as well.
Yeah,
and
she was just announced as attached.
I haven't watched any of her stuff, but I've seen
She's good.
clips and like she's clearly a very talented person. But yeah, I think the point that you made earlier is correct, where it's like even though this story has not explicitly been made, more recently, the inspirations of this have been seen in so many and countless other stories and everything, and so it's gonna feel very familiar, I think, to a lot of people, and that could have an impact. But then also too, he might be getting in over his head on this one, and I think what we've seen every film, especially since Tenet, is he has shown himself to be that much more full of himself.
And that's unfortunate. It's the M. Night
Yeah.
Shyamalan type of thing. And I feel like
Yeah.
Shyamalan's very much that way, especially like I'm a big Avatar fan, Last Airbender, and he completely, that movie doesn't exist, right? It
Yeah.
was a fucking terrible version where M. Night Shyamalan decided to not care about anything that made the show great, do what he wanted. And that could be an issue here too, where if Christopher Nolan just decides to disregard what makes the Odyssey great, right? Like, because the biggest criticism and the potential pitfalls that we've seen this before, right? But I'm a big anime manga fan. I like shonen stuff. Shonen's exactly the same every time, but it's what the mangaka can create of it, right? He could do the same exact tropes and you have to, but what makes yours different? And that's what makes it great. So it's like, you're going to be familiar with the Odyssey, but can he stick to the story enough and make it relevant enough that it could be great? And that's tough to do. This is a hard film to make. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think that based off of the trend of where he's been going, I would not be surprised if this is the most pretentious film that he will have ever made. Because Tenet had that level of it, especially with people when they legitimately complained about the sound, he didn't even care. Like he was like that's your fault, or that's the theater's fault, or whatever. It's like no, that was your fault, Nolan. You chose to design it that way, and that's something he's always had an issue with. And then more recently with Oppenheimer, like to me that film screamed pretentious.
Yeah,
because it's like there were a couple things in there I liked, but it was pretentious as hell.
And like, what choices is he going to make, right? Are you going to
Yeah.
just jump into Odysseus's story of him returning from the war, or are you going to branch in and give a synopsis of the Iliad in order to understand why Odysseus is returning home, right? Like, and what the circumstances were of him leaving home in order to come home and the whole cat and mouse game of like, if I'm spoiling the Odyssey for you, I'm sorry, but this is a book that you should have read.
You cannot
I mean,
spoil
look,
the
it's
Odyssey.
Too
like-
soon.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
sorry,
too soon,
but
man.
like
It's only been
when-
thousands of years since it was first written.
one of the greatest
Lord.
epic poems ever. But how is he going to portray him coming back and playing in the game of courtship for his wife when his wife is unbeknownst that he's there? Like, I'm interested to see how he takes this, right? Because if he does it well, this could be one of the best movies around. It could be one of the greatest because the retelling
Well, it's
of
still
one of the greatest
best
stories
ever told.
Yes, if you
That's
could
why so
retell
many
the-
stories come from the Odyssey.
If you could
People
retell one of the
follow
greatest
it
stories,
without
yeah.
acknowledging that they follow the Odyssey. You don't have to ever read it, but you've actually read it indirectly by other stories. So
Shakespeare
But is he-
100%
but is he
took
gonna
influence
think-
from the Odyssey. 100%.
Is he going to think that he can make it better, though? That's the thing. I
That-
think that
yes.
he's that pretentious
That's
that he
the-
thinks that he'll be able to tell the best version of the story that's ever existed. And if he in any way, because the other thing, his filmography wise, that I would be concerned about, if he tries to Dunkirk it, when he tries to have like different threads and different stories
Yeah.
intertwining, and it's
He
poorly
might.
done and confusing as hell, I would not be surprised if he does something similar.
Which the
for
Odyssey
this.
weaves a little bit of that in, right? Already when it starts talking about his travels coming back and what's going on at his home with some of his trusted advisors trying to court his wife, right? Like, so you get into that. And again, I would be annoyed if he spends the first half an hour at the end of the Trojan War, right? If he spends the first half an hour explaining to you where Odysseus was and, bringing in Achilles, I think that's where the Odyssey starts, but it's very quick, right? He's leaving, the war's over, that's it. Like, but I don't know. There's so much that can go wrong, and I really enjoy the Odyssey. It's one of those books I had to read it in school, and it's one of those books in school I still enjoyed, even though I was pulling like. Again, I always criticize reading books in school because I'm not reading it for enjoyment. I'm reading it to pull out literary devices and write summaries, and kids hate that shit. But I actually enjoyed it. I ate that book up, so I'm not confident in any modern retelling. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, agreed.
So, overall, what do you think we're going to see in 2025? That'll be my last, as 2025 continues to take shape, are we going to see the beginning of the coming back to sanity? Because these movies were starting to be made in 2022, 2023, 2021, when wokeness was still the way, right? Are we going to slowly start to see coming back to sanity this year? Or are we still going to be really flooded with a bunch of bullshit?
I think it depends on what you're watching and where you're watching it, because if you saw those Oscar nominations, it was very clear that as far as the Hollywood, like the main Hollywood people, right, the Academy voters, especially the acting block, they are still fully committed to the nonsense, fully committed to the insanity. So don't be surprised if you still get a lot of it from mainstream Hollywood. Now, the production side of things, the production companies and the people at the top, we are, I think, starting to see a shift there. And so that, but unfortunately, when it comes to film production, TV production, it takes about 2 to 3 years before you actually feel any shift or any change.
Yep.
So if there is a shift going on, we won't know about it until probably closer to the end of the current administration, since that obviously has a huge part of, I think, why a lot of the cultural elements are shifting. But that we really won't know until that point. So there's still so many films left in the pipe that are going to also get released and are all going to have those issues. And I think you're also going to have the problems that are in the pipeline already, but also the actors themselves who, whether we want them to or not, are still going to push the nonsense. Like, we still got Snow White to come out.
Speaking of a flop,
possible
speaking of
billion
a flop.
And I mean, Rachel Zegler is going to be on that press tour, unwisely, but she's going to be on it. I highly doubt they're going to keep her off of that press tour, and she's going to say some things that are probably going to be pretty stupid. So, I mean, I honestly, I think that we're not going to really, I don't think us in our space is going to feel that much of a change because, we're watching the movies, we're we're watching the commentaries and the interviews, the things that most people don't care about, right? Most people have no idea that Rachel Zegler said X thing at
We're
X
much
time
more
and
critical than the common
while
person.
ago.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. Sometimes we get caught up in our bubbles. Like that's why when people were going off on, whether it be films like Mufasa or some others, like people were like, oh man, this thing is not going to do this or is not going to do that.
Like Wicked wasn't.
Wicked was a big, I mean, Wicked and Moana, those were two big ones. They were like, oh, those films are going to flop. And I'm like, look, Moana's going to make $1 billion. And I had people even close in my space who were like saying like, no, this is bad. This is terrible.
My biggest question with Moana
no.
was Lin-Manuel Miranda not being attached to it. And you felt that because the songs were hollow.
Yeah.
They were hollow, and I don't agree with Lin-Manuel Miranda on mostly anything political, but the guy's fucking talented. And
except when he's rushed, because that was the issue with Mufasa.
Yes.
Was Mufasa, the songs were terrible.
They weren't good.
And it was
Mufasa's story is stupid too. It's hard to make good music around an idiotic story, right?
This is very true.
That the king, the one that you respected, Mufasa, was adopted, and Scar's the real one. Get the fuck out of here! Like that is nonsense.
And he was raised by strong female lionesses. He wasn't allowed to be with anybody else. He had to hunt and do all the things with the lionesses.
And this is going to lead right into this comment by Nate G. Odysseus's wife will be trans. Book it. That's Elliot. Are we gonna see Elliot Page playing a girl eventually becoming a guy? Are we gonna get a fucking Elena Perez or whatever that
Amelia
was?
Perez.
Amelia Perez.
Or is Odysseus just gonna have a husband, and then we're gonna have to buy into Elliot being I can't with those. I can't.
I hope not. I hope it's treated somewhat well. Like I hope it's, if it's just like normal pretentious stuff where he fucks it, like that's fine. That's a given. Nolan, that can happen. But as long as it doesn't have the message shoved into it.
They casted Ellen Page, Dave.
I know.
It's already there. And Charlize Theron's a retard, like Odin said. So it's like I'm losing faith the more we're talking about it. But all right. Odin, thank you so much for jumping on. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun, and we'll have to definitely do it again.
Yes.
And I'm trying to think of any last things to say. Oh, yeah. If you don't like the Oscars and you want to boycott them, make sure to check out my Raven Awards. I do it every year. It's my 7th. This is the other thing that ages me. It's my 7th annual Raven Awards. Can't believe it's been 7 years since I've done this. But we do our best of the year, worst of the year. Shill of the year has been a fun category. Jeremy Geeks and Gamers has won this award now at least once or twice.
I love that.
Which is a whole thing in itself. Now there's people they nominated me this year, and so now they're trying to push me to win it. But
you got to make it for Jeremy the homosexual of the year, and then that'll be all his.
Of course,
that's all his.
The thing I would love to see happen is John Campea has been nominated every year for Shill of the Year. Every year, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Has never won. Could this be the year? Especially since I've heard he's stopping his video side production this year. I heard someone mention this. It's a rumor or speculation that he's going to be audio only going forward after this year or something like that. Basically giving up on YouTube. But keeping it all behind the audio platform instead. So this might be one of the last times that he's kind of in the space for people to nominate. So,
and I also want to direct people over to your YouTube page over here. Boom. OMB Reviews right here. If you do the right thing and subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely go. This banner in the back I think is badass. The black background, that is sick. But
my wife designed the logo. So
yeah, it's very nice.
I already have your one of your shirts teed up for me to buy. So
nice.
That logo's dope. I already have that teed up. I love it. So definitely jump on here. This is his page. So definitely go and subscribe.
With my beautiful thumbnails. If there's one thing I'm known for, it is having those awesome pea-tinted yellow thumbnails. But the reason why I've stuck with it is because my mindset is, it's me. You'll know where my video is on your timeline because it's always going to have that same hue to it.
So yeah, definitely. And that's, we're working through that too, where I've kind of have my signature that I do now. And, you got, whether it's good or not, you have to have a signature, right? Like, honestly, it doesn't matter whether it's that great. It just needs to be consistent. And and
be self-aware. Like that's the other thing too, is that I'm very self-aware of it, and it's like when people tell me that in the comments, I'm like, yeah, you're correct. Thank you. Thank
And
you
it
for
looks fucking
noticing.
great, damn it. So once again, he is Odin from OMB Reviews. We appreciate you taking the time to come hang out with us. We are going to force you to do this again, maybe against your will, but you will come back. Maybe at the end of the year, we'll see what actually made $1 billion, and we'll see what did well, and maybe we could plan on something towards the end of the year. We'll bring you back, and we'll kind of look at what we talked about, early on in the year, and see what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be fun to see this $1 billion, who will join the $1 billion club this year, because we had 3 last year. They all were from Disney. Again, all 3 of those, Avatar, that would be Disney. Zootopia, that would also be Disney. And then the only one that would be Jurassic World Rebirth. And How to Train Your Dragon, if that one gets there. So you might actually get a bit of a mix here. Could have $4 billion films this year. But the funny thing is that the box office is still going to be down from 2019 levels.
100%. 100%. So, Odin, once again, thank you for hanging out. We appreciate it.
Of course, thank you.
And yeah, you gave our small group of fans some bonus baseball, because we're usually on Wednesdays. So you coming in on a Sunday is making them very happy.
Well, I appreciate being on here and had a lot of fun.
All right, brother Dave, do you want to hang out for a little bit longer? You have anything else you want to talk about, or are we going to piss off too?
Yeah, we can get going.
All right, so we're all getting out of here. Everyone, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Like we said, go find Odin at OMB Reviews everywhere. Just go search OMB Reviews, look for the badass Viking. And then if you see him in real life, he kind of looks like a badass Viking if you're seeing on the screen. So you'll get that as well. And also you can go find us everywhere at the Alex Cuesta Show. You go search for us there. We appreciate everyone that always watches wherever you're watching from. And go do your due diligence, like, share, follow, subscribe, and we'll be back on Wednesday. Actually, we'll be back again. So